morning. Hi, my name is Michael Milanoski, and I'm the acting town manager here in Cohasset. And welcome to Office Hours. As many of you may have read this week in the Mariner, this is going to be a weekly show that we put on to showcase what different departments are doing in the town and highlight the wonderful effort that our professional staff are doing for the town and what services they provide you. Tonight, we're going to be talking with the Council of Elder Affairs tonight to highlight what some of their new programs are going to be, and we have two guests with us tonight, which is Grande, the Director of Elder Affairs, and Paul Kierche, who's the Chairman of the Board of Elder Affairs. But I also want to just take a moment to talk about the premise behind this show. One of the things that we've been hearing is there's a need to get more factual information out to the public. And there's a lot of activities that many are not aware that are happening in this community. And that's really the premise behind what we're trying to do this evening. So with that, why don't we start off this first show? And let me introduce Coral Grande. Coral, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've worked I'm the Director of Elder Affairs, as you said, and I've been in Cohasset for 4 years. I have worked in elder services for about 40 years, which makes me 105. And I love what I do. I'm very fortunate to be in Cohasset. I'm surrounded by great people between the volunteers, my boards of directors, and I mean, it's just a great place to work. I have 5 staff who currently work for me, and we operate 34 different programs and services and activities.
Coral, before you came to Cohasset, where did you work before here?
I worked for several years as the Council on Aging Director in Gloucester.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in the Cape Ann area. I actually helped guide the senior center project there and built a new senior center. It's about 15 years old now, which doesn't seem possible. I had 8 staff and around the same number of programs, believe it or not. Before that, I worked at Thornton Oaks, which was a retirement community. It wasn't a CCRC, but it had all of the amenities of a continuing care facility.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I was, I'm going back now. I was a rehab counselor. I worked.
And weren't you in the military? Didn't you leave the military?
I did that too.
So
I was
first lieutenant?
First lieutenant. I graduated from engineering school at Fort Belvoir.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. But I got out. I probably thought many times of staying in the military full time, but at that time they had different regulations on family, and I knew at some point I wanted to get married and have children. And it was very difficult for a woman to do that. So I decided that my time was up. I had done that. I had served my country, if you will, and so I wanted to get back to serving seniors full time.
Let me go back to one point you said. You mentioned that you have been involved in building a senior center in another community?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. Tell our citizens about that.
Okay. Well, anytime you build a senior center, it's a long process, and
Mm-hmm.
anybody who thinks it's not there's just a lot that goes into it. Building continuity, building consensus in the community, building the need for it, making sure that people understand what you're trying to do and why you're doing it and why you're doing it right at that moment. We actually went outside of the Friends of the Council on Aging were very active in that community, but they weren't as strong as they needed to be in order to build a new senior center.
Mm-hmm.
So we went outside of that group and developed a steering committee, and we took the strongest leaders of all different facets of the community. That became our steering committee to make sure that we could build the facility the way it was. So we were very happy with that.
Great.
facility.
So you have decades of experience in what you're doing.
As
been
I said,
involved
I'm really old.
I don't know about that. And let me introduce Paul Kierche. But before I do that, just if anyone's looking around and noticing that we are a little hot today, it is 96 degrees, and probably here in the high school we're about 92 degrees. But other than that, Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you lived in the town?
Well, recently I've moved here with my wife and family about 7 years ago. Prior to that, I lived on South Main Street with my folks, growing up part-time here in Cohasset. I'm the second oldest of 8, and we had moved here about 30 years ago or so. And
so you had 8 siblings that grew up in Cohasset.
That's correct, and
Uh-huh.
they're all. And I'm the second oldest, so They all went through the school systems here as well. I came through after I graduated. I came in here to Cohasset and grew up with the rest of the kids here.
So your family, the extended family, has its root
right here.
Sound in Cohasset.
Correct.
Great.
Correct.
And what do you do professionally?
I own a medical device company, and it's in Wilmington, Massachusetts. We own a machining company in Haverhill, and I also have the medical device company in Wilmington, Mass. So we do a lot of surgical instruments, cardiovascular products, and different type of instruments for other procedures that are specialty procedures.
And approximately how many full-time equivalent people do you have working for you?
Right now, we're down to about 20 full-time people.
Mm-hmm. So it's a professional business, you manage people, and now all of a sudden you've stepped up to the role as being the president of your organization here in Cohasset. Tell us a little about what your role is here.
Yeah, actually, I have a long history with my family of volunteerism, and a lot of it with St. Anthony's Parish here in Cohasset. It's a lot of fun being involved. You get to meet a lot of people, and giving back to the community is really what I enjoy, my family enjoys. And my folks have always volunteered everywhere in the town. My mother's run the senior shuttle. She does cooking for the seniors as well. She cooks for the Pine Street Inn. So, you know, our family takes the lead from my parents. And many years ago, Cohasset used to have a share program. Mm-hmm. And my brother John was in charge of the share program. And he had volunteered all of us brothers and sisters to help him do the share program. Ah. So the share program was a food program where we would get up at 5 in the morning on a Saturday and drive to Canton with the town van and pick up all the food and bring it back to the Deer Hill, and we would disperse it into meals, and folks would come between 9 a.m. and 12 noon to pick up the meals.
So is this the precursor to the Meals on Wheels?
I'm not sure if it was a precursor to it. I think Meals on Wheels probably existed because those are specific meals to specific people. The SHARE program is really a food bank program mm-hmm. that was done around communities that folks needed extra help with buying groceries. So the meals was really produce, meats, and other goods, and you would get it for a certain dollar value, and it would hold you for the month type of program.
Would that be a precursor for the food pantry?
Probably
maybe?
The food pantry.
Okay,
yeah. So it's you paid a nominal fee and you got a lot of food. So it was a great program.
And how many months? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's interesting because Paul's mom, Rose, as he said, ran the shuttle and cooked for us, and from that, Paul was volunteered
volunteered to cook.
We'll use passive tense. Okay, was volunteered to come and cook a meal for the seniors, which he did, and that led to his mom helping him to become an associate member of the board of directors, which led to him becoming a full member of the board of directors, which led to him becoming the chairperson of the board of directors. So
why don't we talk about that? Tell us what it's like being chair of the board of directors.
Well, you know, I really
piece of cake.
Right. It's had its challenges, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, coming into the town politics and coming into the town community organizations always has its challenges for people that aren't in it full time. So when you're a volunteer, you get to participate and enjoy things, and then sometimes you don't have the opportunity to dig or drill down deep into the details of things that need to be done mm-hmm. On a consistent basis with the program directors. So becoming the chairman of the board in February, I believe it was, our first step was in the organization to try and get to know who everybody was and what different groups intermingle with each other, try to understand whose services are with what organizations, because we mm-hmm. have the South Shore Elder Services, we've got the Social Service League that helps out quite a bit, we've got the Friends of Cohasset Elder Affairs, we've got Cohasset Elder Affairs, so we've got a lot of things, mm-hmm. A lot of moving parts, so for me to try and understand that and figure out who's with who, that was a challenge right out of the gate. And then once we went from there, our goal was really to try and understand the budget that was coming up, which was in a very short term because we're talking about March where we meet once a month. So we had a lot of challenges with trying to understand where we are with our current staff and services and where we are headed with the opportunity with the budget that was in front of us at the time. So we're trying to get everything kind of ironed out in a short period of time.
Well, you've done a great job getting up to speed and enjoy the conversations we have, and you coming in front of the selectmen too and talking about the program.
He has a very short learning curve. I'm really serious. I'm not sure who else we could have done it with other than Paul. He was terrific. I mean, he took the budget and we showed him what we were doing and what we'd been working on, where we were going, why we were going, where we were going, how soon we were going there, and he just like that and asked great questions, and the budget took on a much more specific and better, more improved stance than it would have taken otherwise. So I can't say enough for Paul.
It's a good point, and let me just do a little side note here, is that this community is made up of volunteers like yourself, Paul, that come in and help the professional staff and provide that community liaison back and forth. And this community, I don't believe, would be as successful as it is as being involved in reaching out to the community without volunteers like you and others. So for all the volunteers that are out there, thank you very much. Coral, let's go back to you.
Okay.
Tell us about what it is you run. What's the organization you run?
It's interesting because from the outside, Elder Affairs looks like just any other department, when in fact it's a very complex department. It's a very intricate department. It's run with multiple funding sources. We have the part-time staff that we have currently. There's so many different pieces to each position, and it's just very complex. For example, when you talk about the backbone of Elder Affairs is, I always sort of break, not that everything else isn't important, but I really break it down to outreach, transportation, nutrition, and then the volunteer piece. For example, the transportation piece.
Yeah, let's go through one at a time.
Okay. Well, transportation is, I always say we have to be the last resort because we don't have the resources to be anything else. But we coordinate services with the RIDE program, which the town purchases services from them. We also coordinate services from South Shore Action Council, which is a 5-town consortium, and we use that service for long distance transportation to go to Boston, to go to all different places that aren't within the 15-mile radius. We also coordinate services with FISH, which is a volunteer organization that providing transportation, and then our own van transportation, which is supported by the town of Cohasset. We try to make sure that all of the other resources are used first before they use our van service, but the truth is we use our van service 5 days a week all the time, because as you get older it's really hard to stay on a van for 3 or 4 hours at a time, and a lot of seniors aren't capable of doing that, that for whatever illnesses they have, incontinence, Alzheimer's, dialysis, things like that, they're not in a position to stay on a van for a long time. So after we've ruled out all of those other resources, then we step in and do what we can.
Sounds like a lot of logistics to coordinate all that.
It is a lot of logistics, and it's every moment of every day. And then you run into the changes, because you have a physician who decides to go golfing one day, not that they shouldn't have a day off, but that throws the whole transportation system into chaos. And you have to either reschedule a resource or the appointment, and then you have to notify the person. And it definitely is a full-time job. It really is, and it starts from the moment we get into the office until the time that we leave. And then we get the messages overnight that come in, it's just it's very complex.
How many paid drivers do we have, and how many volunteer drivers do we have?
At the moment we have 2 paid drivers. Okay, I have an open position, so if anyone's listening and is interested in applying for a van driver position, that would be great.
Must have a safe driving record.
Absolutely. Well, we have a list of criteria for the van drivers, but we've been able to partner with the school department, and we have one driver in particular who's just wonderful. And so from 9 to 1, she will do whatever local transportation we need. She's tied up between 7 and 9, and then 1 to 3, or whenever it is that she's done working for the school department. But that's lessened the stress on our volunteer drivers and some of the other drivers that we have who help us, periodically. So that look to.
It's a great partnership with the school.
It is a great partnership, and it's just the beginning too. So we're working on something, that we can use more
And
of
how
their
many
services.
volunteers did you have?
Volunteers driving? We have about 30 volunteers on and off, but we have people who are only here in the winter, only can do Tuesdays, and only can do Wednesdays from 1 to 3. We have all of those criteria that we work with too. But the system works. It's just very intricate. It really is. So we're very fortunate that the system that we have, somebody coordinating the system that we have.
So let's go on the next item you said, which I believe was outreach.
Outreach is really the backbone of all councils on aging, because it's the piece of a council on aging that reaches out into the community. These are people who may never darken the doorstep of a senior center. They're people who either they may come for a limited period of time, or they may not come at all. But we provide people who can go sit with people for an hour, telephone reassurance. Excuse me. If people can't get out and drive to their homes, they can at least talk to them on the telephone. So we have telephone reassurance, friendly visiting, the people who go out and actually visit people. We provide all kinds of prescription information, Medicare information. There's like 57 different insurance programs for seniors, which is really tough to get your head around. And so we have to have someone who knows that. We have people who are homeless, who depend on our services for relocation. We have people who live in Montana and Oregon and all these other places who want to come back to Cohasset. So we provide services and housing options for them. We deal with a lot of, unfortunately, domestic violence situations. We deal with protective services, adult abuse, exploitation, scams, fraud. We work very closely with the police department and the fire department. People who can't pay their taxes. There's usually a reason why people can't pay their taxes. It's not a situation that's isolated to that one particular thing. There's usually like a whole bunch of, a whole web of other services that they may need.
So there's a lot of confidential information that you have to work with that the general public doesn't have a full understanding.
And
but you are the opportunity, as you mentioned, the opportunity for last resort for transportation. You're also the opportunity if you have no place else to go.
Absolutely.
So it's you're not only serving, from what I can see and what we've talked about, not only a certain age group. Your age group has actually widened over the years.
It has. And I always say that we talk about the mission of Elder Affairs, which is to link people with resources. And if you took away all of the other sentences and paragraphs, that's it. We link people with available resources. We don't have to do everything, we don't have to provide everything, but we have to know who provides it. We have to know what the criteria is, and we have to know how to make sure that they get linked up to that. The other thing that we really and truly take seriously is to help seniors remain connected to their community. The seniors are the people who, more or less built Cohasset, so we really have a very strong respect for that. And we think that just because a person gets older or has some kind of a cognitive disability or whatever, that they can't remain connected in some capacity. We feel that that's just absolutely the right thing to do. The thing that I like best about councils on aging in general is that they serve everybody. Regardless, it doesn't matter if you have $1 million or you don't have anything. It doesn't matter where you live. It just doesn't matter what your socioeconomic, your age. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background are, what your abilities, disabilities are. It just doesn't matter, and that's the best. I like it because it doesn't have 5 layers of criteria and conditions and expiration dates and that kind of thing. There's no expiration date for councils on aging. And I know you and I've talked before about maybe expanding Elder Affairs to encompassing human services, because we truly serve almost as many families as we do seniors because of the people who live in Montana and Washington. It's not it's just not a senior isolated in their own little component. It's them connected to their family and their community and their their neighbors. It's just it's just a huge integral part of Cohasset.
And it's not even really an expansion. It's what you're doing right now.
It's what
so
we're
it's
already
actually
doing.
better clarifying what you're doing.
We've seen a really good example of that recently, where we had that big winter storm. We lost power for 3 or 4 days, some people even longer, depending what street you lived on. We, with the Cohasset Emergency Management Team, have received phone calls from all over the country saying, could you check on my parents? Could you check on my mother? Could you check on my father or my sister? So, you know, with Elder Affairs, and what Coral is alluding to is that it's not just the person who needs the service, it's the family that needs the help. So certainly a lot of folks call into elder services that may be in their 40s or 50s that are looking for assistance on how to fill out a form or where to go for information, or I tried this but it didn't work, no one's returning my call at the agency. That's a big part of it. And you know, with today's demographics and baby boomers getting older, what we're seeing is that, you know, baby boomers are being stretched because they're living longer, their parents are living longer as well, and they had children that are coming out of college now. So there's this whole demographics of people that are needing all kinds of questions answered. But you know, whether it's direct help or it's just services or information, Elder Affairs is always there for those answers and those questions to help you guide where you need to go. And I think a lot of people don't see that every day. They really don't see that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's really the point of what this series is about, is making sure that the public has this information, because if you're not involved and you're not volunteering, a lot of this information doesn't get out as to what services you have.
Right.
Let's go on. You had mentioned there's some additional services you provide. We've gone through transportation, outreach, and then I think, was the next one nutrition?
Well, yeah, nutrition. But you know, I just wanted to go back for a second with something that Paul was saying. You know, if you're not on the inside, you don't understand, you know, what's going on. The truth is that we provided 8,500 information, or we fielded 8,500 information and referral calls last year. This is, you know, anything from, you know, where do I sign up for Medicare? You know, when can I talk to my congressman? Where can I get my next meal? You know, I'm on a special diet. Where do I go to get this? When does the food pantry open? Can I have transportation for that? I mean, you name it. And I think one of the strangest calls I had a couple of weeks ago was, where's the closest laundromat? So, you know, not that that's necessarily important to everyone, but it was very important to a person who had just moved to town. And you never know who's on the other end of the phone when the phone rings, and you never know who's going to walk through the door.
Sure.
You just don't. It can be anybody requesting anything. So I think that, you know, one of the things I tell my staff all of the time is do the best job that you can and be really flexible. That's just the key to success and your sanity at Elder Affairs. In terms of nutrition, we've had the home delivered meals program for about 1.5 years now, and the first week that we had, or first couple of weeks that we had it, we had 100% increase in the number of people. It was always a sleepy little program that sort of ran itself with awesome assistance from Jeff Steele, recruiting drivers for it. But it was just, it had stayed, it was like, not that it was stagnant, but it was just a, you know, it was just a status quo type of program for a long time. I still don't know what happened, but we took it over, did some publicity on it, and all of a sudden, boom, the Meals on Wheels program takes between 1 and 2 hours a day to operate, and we have a whole cadre of volunteers who just deliver meals. And it's a terrific program, and it's the lifeline to people being able to remain in their homes.
And the meals are cooked right now in the the community center.
And actually, the meals are delivered to us from South Shore Elder Services. So they're, I can't remember if it's...
They're prepared in advance.
They're prepared in advance. I think
and then they're delivered in bulk, and we have to kit them.
Yeah, we have to.
Them out, right?
And you do that in the centers where you kit them.
We do that in the center. Okay. Then the other thing is the congregate meal program, and we serve meals at the center 3 days a week. We're blessed with, we call them celebrity chefs, and they're volunteers in the community, of which Paul was one, or is.
Oh, you're a celebrity chef as
well?
Well, Michael Abruzzi, I have to give my hat to Michael Abruzzi on that.
One of their seniors' favorite meals ever. They had more portions than they knew what to do with. But we're just so blessed to have people who do support the meals program the way that they do. Also, 5 different restaurants in town provide one meal a month. most at no charge to us whatsoever. I mean, it's just the camaraderie and the support that we have from the restaurants is just awesome.
And who are those 5 restaurants again?
The 5 restaurants are 5 South Main, Red Lion Inn, French Memories, Mr. Dooley's, and Cohasset Pizza House.
There we go.
Thank you for putting me on the spot like that.
Well, no, it's important.
A lot of folks don't know
abs-
that. They really don't. A lot of folks
That's
don't
true.
know how much the community gives back. It's this town has a lot of activities, sporting activities, golf events, all kinds of youth programs, and we're always knocking on all their doors saying, can you give $25 for this, or a T-shirt for that, or a gift certificate for a golf tournament. So I really want folks to know that these folks are really giving back to the town.
That's true.
Not just in a gift certificate. So this is really important to us.
No, and I'll jump in. When we were running, or when I was running the response to the most recent blizzard we had, and the power was out for several days, 5 South Main came up with thousands of dollars of food. Dooley's came up with food. Not only did both places bring thousands of dollars food to feed the people, they also brought their chefs.
The chefs.
And their
right.
cookers and their helpers, and it was just amazing effort from the business community being able to step up and do that. And I think that's what makes Cohasset special again, is you have these businesses that want to step up and be part of the situation and part of the solution as well.
I remember when I went over to Mr. Dooley's, and I was looking for some volunteers to help in the warming center at Deer Hill School, and I walked in, and Mick Carlisle, their manager, was there, and I said, I just need some help. And he said, what do you want? And I said, well, just some people who can come and help staff the warming center. And he said, do you want food? And I said, always, yes, please. And he opened his freezer and his refrigerator, and he said, take everything. And he said, do you have a way to get it to Deer Hill? And I said, oh, we will find a way for sure. But it's people, and they donated 2 people who worked 18 hours a day in that kitchen at Deer Hill School. And then 5 South Main did the same thing, and I think we had some food from Red Lion Inn, and then Stop and Shop was
very
great
supportive.
to us. And
they opened their freezers, and I had a few police officers, and we literally filled up multiple carts of the trucks and brought it to feed everybody.
Absolutely terrific, and it was just, I know you were totally exhausted, and I was totally exhausted, but just to see the community come together like that, it was terrific.
Well, everyone feeds off their energy, everyone else's energy in time of chaos, and that was a time of crisis, and we all pulled together.
Well, I went to a training session Saturday for emergency management for learning all of the specifics on how to set up a shelter and how to run a shelter, and I was telling them some of our experiences with the blizzard and all of the things that we had in place, and they couldn't believe it. I mean, some of these really well-organized cities and towns were like, we can't, the 3C list, the Cohasset Community Contact List, we have almost 100 people. I just updated it this past week. Almost 100 people on that list, and those are people who depend on other people to check on them during any kind of a weather incident or disaster or anything like that. And to watch these other towns listen to what we're doing here, we always concentrate on what we have to do and what we haven't done yet. The truth is, emergency management's been awesome in terms of getting everything in Deer Hill School and the EOC and that kind of thing, and it's just, it's really exciting to work with that.
Well, we have our superstar, another volunteer behind that whole organization, and that's Glenn Pratt, who's helped on many different levels in this town, but that's his bailiwick, and he's been incredibly successful in helping to professionalize that response.
Definitely.
And can't thank him enough. Let's go back. Now, we've talked about transportation, we've talked about outreach, we've talked about nutrition.
Okay.
What are the other major items that you do in your organization?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm responsible for running the day-to-day operations of the center, or the backup to the staff, when there are vacations or whatever. And just in terms of public awareness, I do a lot of public speaking with different groups in town, making sure they understand what it is that we're doing. One of the things that I interface with all of the legislators and help them to understand how we use the money that's given to us from the state. And I wanted to say something right here that, you know, we always say, well, you know, the state doesn't get it, and they only give us $7 per elder per year, and what does that do? And even though we're very grateful for that money, but the truth is they really do get it, because this year, for the first time, the House recommended an increase to $8 an elder, which we've never gotten, and that budget went to the Senate, which is where it is now. And supposedly it's not meeting with any resistance there either. So we'll see what happens with the budget. But it's just talking to the legislators and helping them to understand where the money is spent. It makes a big difference to them. So we're very fortunate with that.
Well, you're a great advocate for the elder affairs that you do. Talk a little bit about the Vista. What is the Vista, and tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, the Vista is the monthly newsletter, as Paul knows, that goes out to 1,600 people. It is financed in part with a grant from the Social Service League and also from the Friends of Elder Affairs. It's comprised of information about all of the activities in the upcoming month, anything that any programs or services or anything like that. It also highlights one person a month that we do an interview with and a photo. And June's star was Paul. We did that because of Father's Day and also because he had just taken the reins of Elder Affairs. We highlight different people in the community. Usually it's an older person. Sorry, Paul.
I am older.
And so we have that, and then we just have a couple of personal interest types of things. But we've changed the Vista a lot in the last year, and who it's mailed to, who receives it, and just the purpose behind Vista.
So how many employees do you have right now again?
We have, today we have 2, 4, 5.
Okay, and just for the public, this organization that you run is operated on a budget of about $238,000?
Yes. Yes. And it's less than 1% of the budget. And I know that there are different ways to interpret that, but that's the bottom line. Is it's a very, very, very small, minute portion of the town's budget. And what people get for what they pay for through their taxes or whatever is huge.
Well, you're clearly providing a service that's needed for the public on a relatively shoestring budget, and you've done a great job with that. I'm going to go to Paul now, and Paul, tell us a little bit about the board of directors and what the mission is of your group that you oversee.
Sure. I'd like to add one thing to that, and that is, coming onto the board as the chairman of the board, we have 9 voting members of the board, and we have 3 associate members, which are non-voting on the board. So there's 12 altogether. When you take a look at, you were asking Coral about the number of employees. I'd like to add one piece of that, and that is we have a lot of part-time workers that are volunteers, so they're not paid. So when you take a look at the scope of the services that are provided, we rely real heavily on volunteers. And the purpose of the board really is to help support the director and the services and the employees that work for the director in any capacity that we can. So primarily we really look to advise and guide the necessary issues that come up, and also kind of look forward into other areas that we think are better programs or new programs, or fix some programs that we already have. We did have some challenges early on with the Meals on Wheels. It was a transition issue between Elder Affairs getting the Meals on Wheels program, and at the same time, South Shore Elder Affairs had changed vendors on service providers for bringing those meals in. So there was a transition issue that we had to address, and I think on the board we addressed it fairly well and concise, and kind of resolved it quickly. So what our board is doing now is, with the changes that are in place for us, we're looking at the demographics of the town. Where are we going to be a year from now or 2 years from now, where we have the population growing? People are getting older, whether they want to admit it or not. Older Americans is an increase in population in this demographic. So we're going to have expanded services, and it may not be that all of a sudden we're going to get 80 people walking through the front door, but we may have a high increase in phone calls that require outreach coordination or volunteer coordination. So, with us, we want to make sure that we have a staff that can handle that type of workload. And in every business, you have a platform of full-time staff, and then as your business grows, you're able to augment that with additional part-time employees. Or if it expands rapidly, you would add a few more full-timers as well. But we don't see that expansion rapidly increasing. It seems to be a steady increase. So our board is positioned to be able to help with Coral and her staff to understand where we need to go. So we're drafting a lot of protocols and procedures so that people can be trained as we expand our volunteer base and the services. So that's really important.
Perfect. And let's talk about where you are today with the organization, and now with this transition year, because both the two of you came early this year and met with the Board of Selectmen and myself, and we're looking to make a transition to actually beef up the staffing component and to offer more services that you have. And in doing so, there was some restructuring that was proposed and approved by the Board of Selectmen and also approved by town meeting, where we're going to be going from less part-time staff to a core group of full-time staff. And how do we envision that transforming over the next 6 months? Let me ask this pointed question.
Okay.
Tell me just a little bit about Elder Affairs today versus where it's going to be in 6 months from now.
Okay.
With this transition.
Okay. As Paul said, the main reason for this is because Cohasset, we have this national trend going on, and you can call it a trend, but it's a very long-lasting trend. It's supposed to be in place for at least the next 50 years. So you can call it whatever you want. It's just going to be something that lasts a long time. And Cohasset is either right on trend or it's just slightly above the trend based on the older population that we have already. And where we are right this moment is that it's very difficult for us to continue responding in the professional manner that everyone's become accustomed to, as rapidly and as completely as we are expected to do. The only way that we can do this is to have full-time staff. This is something that we've been moving toward for a long time, and the reason I brought in the whole state piece was because it was refreshing to be able to make the case for our own community and to have the advisory board, my own board of directors. You helped a great deal. The town manager's office helped a great deal with this. The advisory board was wonderful. The Board of Selectmen were very supportive. We had 3 different meetings with them and explained exactly what it was that we were doing and why we were doing it.
I think, Paul, you were at all 3 of those meetings.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's so refreshing that people understand and they really and truly get the picture of what it is that we have to do. The changes will be that at this point in time, this may be just a small point, the only way that I can have a staff meeting is for someone to come in on their day off. There's never a time when all of the staff are there at the same time, and it's because the office has to be covered at all times, and it's very difficult to do that with part-time staff.
And let's just make a point, your staff that you have been doing a great job. Your level of services have just expanded.
Yes.
That you need to grow the organization to handle that increased expansion. And you've been talking to your staff for how long about this transition?
For about 4 months now.
Individually with every member?
Yeah, actually individually with several conversations. And, and more importantly, trying to help all of the staff understand, individually and as a group, why it is that we're doing this, and there's a great deal of support for this also. I think the one of the problems or one of the difficulties is convincing part-time staff to go full-time, because most of the people in our office are retired from another position that they had already held until their own retirement. So when they came to Elder Affairs, it was as a retired person, to begin with. So this is like their second retirement. And they're not interested in working full-time. They've been working full-time all their lives. So I definitely respect that. You know, it's a tremendous loss for Elder Affairs, but I think they do get, based on our conversations that we've had, they do get, you know, what we're trying to do and how, you know, what we're trying to achieve, and they've been supportive of that. The other thing I think it's important to know is that, you know, everyone has the opportunity to apply for these brand new positions, and they are brand new. They're totally, I guess the only position who remains constant is the director's position, I hope. I don't know, unless there's something you want to tell me on television.
What are the 3 positions again, just for the public?
The positions are the assistant director, which we're thrilled to have. I've never had any backup in the office. You know, I've just been the backup for whatever it is.
And the only disagreement you and I have ever had is the fact that you never take a vacation day.
I know, I don't take vacation, so I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, so it's the assistant director's position. It's a full-time position, but it also, along with the backup for all of the other positions in the office, it will serve as the person who helps construct the budget, who helps present the budget, who is the backup for myself to the board of directors, who will do a lot of public speaking and, you know, community awareness, and also will embrace the outreach portion of Elder Affairs. So, you know, we're looking for a really gung-ho person to fill those boots.
So that's one position.
And then the second position would be the service coordinator. This person is responsible for all of the transportation arrangements and the VISTA, and also coordination of all of the volunteers. So that's pretty heavily loaded also. And then the third position is the administrative assistant, and we're thrilled to have the administrative assistant coming on board the beginning of July, because that person will take over the Meals on Wheels program, which is really an administrative assistant's responsibility. And then that person, of course, does all of the computer data entry. We'll have the My Senior Center up and running fairly soon, and that person will be responsible for doing all of the data entry for that, act as an office manager for all of our ordering and things like that. So, I mean, it's so much more professional, and it's a more organized way to provide the services to the community, which is why we're there in the first place.
And it's what Paul mentioned earlier, is you're developing policies and procedures for all the new staff.
For all of
that are
those
part of it.
positions, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
we've, you know, the foundation of having full-time staff is really in line with what the state has put in place through their Elder Affairs National Council on Aging recommendations. All of the national programs and groups, all of the abutting towns have full-time staff, and they augment part-time staff as well. The town of Hingham recently in May just received national accreditation for their senior center, and they've got full-time and part-time staff, and they have over 200 volunteers. So, you know, having that foundation is really, really important for Cohasset. I think that you know, we've seen it. The foundation that we have in our school system has brought us to a level where our school systems are running really well and well respected in the state. We've got great foundations in other community areas as well. You know, the library has got a great foundation of folks there, volunteers and full-time people. We've got great services around town. Each department has their services, their full-time people and staff. Elder Affairs seems to have been the last spot, I think, where we haven't had that focus. So now that we have that focus, I think we'll be able to increase our services, and as we put these procedures in place, it'll be a smooth transition for people to expand offerings and what people like to see.
So what do we expect to see in 6 months from now?
Well, one of the things that that I think we should mention here is that, you know, based on the survey that was administered to the town late fall, and we received the results of in early spring. One of the things that was identified, is that Elder Affairs does their job really well, which I think the community really truly needs to know that. But with that being said, there are areas of improvement always. And one of the areas of improvement that we need to work on is that, as you said before, a lot of people don't know what we do. So it's our job to make sure that the community is aware of what we're doing, and based on that, Paul has instituted an ad hoc committee under the board of directors with its community awareness subcommittee, and B.B. McCarran has agreed
a new appointee
to chair. A new appointee agreed to chair that, and we actually had the first meeting a week and a half ago.
Sure.
And some of the things that they're going to be working on is the social media, because a lot of we're trying to, recruit some of the younger people and help them to understand the importance of elder affairs. So that's a major change that we're working on right this moment. And then, working on the whole transportation piece, and just making sure that the public understands what it is that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about, Paul, from your standpoint, what challenges as a business person, as a longtime resident of the community, what are the top 3 challenges that you see that's going to face the Elder Affairs Department over the next couple of years?
Well, certainly the standard challenges that any organization has is usually resources. That's going to be a key part of it. So as I stated earlier, getting some pre-planning done will help, mitigate some of those resource challenges that we have. So once we move into the 4 full-time positions, what we'd like to do is streamline and get more efficient at what we do. And once you do that, you'll start to see some ability to expand services and get into some of the community outreach programs that we have. I think other big challenges that we have really is in the mindset of the community. I think that a lot of awareness needs to take place within our organization, certainly. There's a lot of folks that are making decisions based on perhaps urban myth or scuttlebutt from here or there.
That can't happen in Cohasset.
So
I've never seen that occur yet.
Yeah, I'd really like to challenge folks to really take an opportunity to see where we live and what we do. Those are some of the challenges that we have moving forward. Obviously, a big part of it is going to be the demographics of older Americans. When you're looking 2, 3, 4 years out, we're going to have the Obamacare program in full swing starting in January. Now, there's a lot of little programs that are going to be implemented and affected by Obamacare. We'll see the full challenges of those coming up. But those do affect some of the programs that are funded by the federal government and the state government that do affect elder affairs. So, we have those standard challenges that I think we'll be able to handle without too many issues because of the foundation that we're putting in place.
Okay. Now, I know that Elder Affairs and your board of directors are different and distinct from what the Social Service League is doing, but can you take 2 minutes and just kind of give us a thumbnail sketch of what the Social Service League is doing on their own for the town of Cohasset?
Sure. Just to give folks an idea, the community center is not owned by the town. That's owned by a private 501c organization, and we currently lease space from the community center. So we have a small office.
$25,000 a year.
$25,000 a year. What we do is we rent an office that's probably 10 or 12 square feet at best, and it houses everyone in there. And we have the right to the common area in the community center from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So that's what we currently have. We've had that for 26 years for free, and then at some point along the way, before I had gray hair, they came up with a reasonable lease for Elder Affairs, and that lease will be coming up at some point. Social Service League is another separate 501c private organization that has been helping the community for 100 years. And they have the opportunity to help fund and build a senior center, which most folks are aware of. And again, a good opportunity for the town of Cohasset and Elder Affairs to be able to, if at some point we can move into that facility, that would be terrific. Like I said, it's a lot of different moving parts, that we have in the town. So I really challenge people to really take a look at what's going on. Go to the Social Service League website, They're doing a terrific job. They're getting all of the stuff ready to go so they could build this center. And it looks great, it looks challenging, but they're going to rise to the challenge, there's no doubt in my mind.
Well, I think in a future office hours with the town manager, we'll have somebody come in from the Social Service League to talk in more detail about the project. But I think the takeaways that you just mentioned is this is being done by another organization, a volunteer organization.
Mm-hmm.
It's being privately funded, and it's here to fit a social service need of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there are a lot of moving parts, but there's a strong commitment of volunteers to put together a facility that hopefully we can all move into and satisfy some of the space needs.
Yeah,
but we'll save that for another topic at another day.
Absolutely. I think that I think what you take away from what has been challenges for the past 5 years over the subject matter of that center, what we have is we have a lot of people who want to help bring a senior center to fruition here to this town. This will be the first time that we actually have a senior center, and we actually can have all services under one roof. Mm-hmm. You know, and the way that the demographics are going in this country, you know, it's really a health and human services center. We're really there to provide services to everybody in all aspects, and because of the size of the space, we're able to have fun doing it, and I think that's really important to the community. You know, once that facility is up and running, I think that people will be very excited about it, and I think before people get their feathers up over costs and expenses and you know what does a free meal really cost me kind of question, come to the meetings that the different groups have. You know, get involved in the community. Don't just shout from the sidewalk. You know, it's really, we've got a great opportunity for a lot of people to participate in any aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we're planning this winter is, and we really haven't done this before, is an annual checkup of Elder Affairs to figure out what people like about the services that we provide and what they feel we should do, what we need improving on. And we'll be doing some focus groups with maybe 10 or 12 people at a time. You know, what is it that you see in the new senior center that you would either like to participate in or you feel is an important service? And actually take space by space, based on the design that we have, and say, you know, how do you think that this space should be used based on what the needs are in our population and what you think would be well attended. So we're starting that probably in the month of November. Mm-hmm. So we're really excited. You talked about what new things we're going to do. That's based on what we're doing right this moment, but it's also helping move us into the future also.
So beyond the potential new senior center, as we start to close out the program, from the director's mouth, tell the taxpayers in town what the top three exciting things are about your organization and why they should get involved.
It's the right thing to do. It absolutely is the right thing to do. You know, people always say if you either feel down or, you know, you're not as happy as you think you could be, volunteer. And I really truly believe that, based on personal experience and based on the experiences of all of our volunteers, it's the best. It really is. It's the camaraderie of doing other things for other people, but doing them with other people as well. It's just a wonderful organization. Someone asked me today, they said, I remember when you said, when you first came to Cohasset, this was like a dream come true. Well, you know what? It still is a dream come true. I'm so fortunate to be here and so fortunate to be associated with you know, the boards of directors that I have, and I'm just blessed. I really am. You know, as I said before, we provide services regardless, and you can end the sentence any way you want, but that's the best thing.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming out this afternoon and talking about your program. I think that there's a lot of valuable information that you provided to our customers, the taxpayers of this community, that really, you know, this is an opportunity for them to see in detail. Never do you get an audience like this to really get into the detail that you presented today. And that's going back to what the purpose of this show is the office hours with the town manager, is to provide this opportunity for our key departments and functions in town to be able to talk to our residents and our taxpayers as to what we do. We appreciate feedback. If there's any feedback you have from this show or any additional questions, particularly on the topic with elder affairs, feel free to contact the director herself or the chairman of the board of directors. They like feedback, they like interaction, and they're also looking for more volunteers. So if you want to just give your phone number, so in case somebody wants to contact you at the office, they have a direct number.
It's 781-383-9112, and my email address is cgrande@cohassetma.org.
Great.
Thank
Well, on
you
that
very
note,
much.
thank you all for watching this
Thank you.
show, and thank you for being participants in here.
Thank you.
And this is the time I think we'll sign off for the office hours with the town manager. Thank you.